Lake City, this is Good Morning PD on Live 95.
Wednesday morning, Good Morning PD Live 95. McCall Farms, our sponsor, 843-661-0937. We'll leave the depressing, discouraging world of addiction, and we'll head to the State House. I don't know how many of you have seen this or not, but South Carolina teachers are basically calling out of work on March the 1st to march on the State House. They plan to leave work March the 1st, protest in Columbia for higher wages, smaller classrooms, and other conditions to their, other provisions to their working conditions, I would imagine. It's unclear how many teachers will participate, but it's being organized by a group. Let me find the name of this group.
They're calling out of work. Is this a protest, a strike?
It is a protest. I mean, it's absolutely a protest. It was announced over the weekend by SC4Ed. That's a teacher activist group, and they've been promoted by the National Education Association Labor Union. Here's my problem with public education. My problem is not with teacher pay. My problem is not with classroom size. My problem is not with the number of administrators that have increased over the past 25 years. My problem is that none of these things tend to improve education across the country. You know, we're always told by the establishment that if you'll only give teachers an increase in pay, you know, the education system will get better. I'm not saying teachers deserve or not. I'll let the people in that arena and realm decide that. But then we're told, okay, the biggest problem with education is classroom size. And then we're told the biggest problem in education is the dilapidated nature of the facilities of which our teachers are underpaid, too big classrooms, and the dilapidated buildings are a recipe for complete and total disaster. Until we radically reform K through 12 and higher education, we're not going to get anything different than what we get today. It's not about classroom size. It's not about teacher pay. It's not about the dilapidated nature or not of the facility and building and infrastructure we educate children in. We've got to sincerely address the radical reformation of public education, and we don't need to tweak it. We don't need to massage it. We need to obliterate it. And we need to start over. And we need to look at best practices from some charter schools and private schools and implement some of those issues and ideas into the public education realm. If you make classes go from 28 to 12, education's not going to get much better in South Carolina. If you give teachers a 4% pay increase or a 5% pay increase or a 10% pay increase, education outcomes are not going to improve in South Carolina. And if all we're after is smaller classes, higher paid teachers, and Taj Mahal buildings, then let's just say that. Let's just say we want our teachers to make real good money, we want our classrooms to be real small, and we want our buildings to be absolutely unbelievably ornate and aesthetically pleasing. And let the public decide if that's what we want. Or are we fundamentally going to reform the way we educate young people in America and our state in particular? And there is no way that I'd sign up to give teachers more money without it leading to better academic achievements, better educational outcomes. There's no way, well, I think you know this, that I'd support a tax referendum that was going to improve the buildings and infrastructure without some correlation to better educating our young people. That's the frustration I have. We can't nip around the edges. We can't lower class size from 28 to 22 and teacher pay from the average being 48 to 51. And a 20-year-old building all of a sudden gets renovated. I mean, that's not going to improve educational outcomes. And everything we do in education is to appease a group of people. That's all we do. Every reaction we have in public education is because some action was taken and the political orbit, the political body says, well, we got to appease this group or we got to appease that group. Can't piss this group off. You know, can't make that group mad. They're voters. They're organized. There's a lot of them. I don't care. Now, I don't care because I'm not a politician and I'm not asking anybody for their vote. But when we argue about 4% pay raise, 5% pay raise, $200 million to make schools better, the buildings better. Let's lower the student the classroom size from 28 to 22. There's never been an example of any of that showing that it leads to better education outcomes. And I don't understand that. It's the business of appeasement. It's the business of, if somebody screams loud enough, we got to address it. I'm not saying teachers don't need raises. I don't know if they do or not. I think some do. Some probably make too much. I don't understand this. We're having a march on the State House because teachers are demanding higher wages. What teachers? The good ones? The bad ones? The great ones? The lousy ones? I mean, are you going to have a great teacher standing beside a lousy teacher and both of those chanting equally, we need a raise? We paint with such a broad brush in public education. And that's why we've got the finished product we do. We spend more money than any country in the world in educating our young people, and we don't do a real good job of it. And the only answer we always come up with is it must be that somebody is not getting properly funded or some salary needs to be increased. And if we could only get the budget increased, if we could only get the salaries increased, then you would see it improve. It never has, and it never will, because that's not fundamental reform. That's appeasement. And I get so aggravated about the way we address some of the ills of education, public education in particular, when we've got charter schools providing excellent opportunities in education, but they do it a little different. And you've got public educators who want to shut down charter schools or not allow more to be created. And you've got private schools in direct competition with public schools who do a far better job of what? Paying teachers? No. The quality of building? No. The classroom size? No. The educational outcomes are what they do a much better job of. How do they get there? Public education has no interest in that because it's the business of appeasement. I think in 1975, there were 3 educators to every 1 administrator. Today, there's 2.1 administrators to every 1 educator. Why did we allow that to happen without demanding that they demonstrate how that makes public education better? And I read these stories. I read one in the Post and Courier last night about, the public school teachers across South Carolina plan to leave work May 1 in protest in Columbia to demand higher wages, smaller classroom sizes, and other changes to their working conditions. Their working conditions. Forgive me, teachers. Public education is not about your working condition. It is about educating young people in a first-rate, world-class fashion, and we ain't doing it. We're lowered standards, and I'm not blaming teachers. I mean, I understand if you want a 4% raise and you think you can organize and go to Columbia and get what you want. I get that. That's self-preservation. Doesn't make education better. I mean, do we really believe if we give teachers a 4% pay increase and we lower class size from 28 to 22, that all of a sudden we're going to have a renaissance in public education in South Carolina? As the sign beside the fishing pond says on Highway 327, not no, but hell no. Will that ever happen? We've got to radically reform K through 12 education. And I'm talking about radically. I'm talking about some of the older neighborhoods in Florence. I notice people are buying the home and tearing it down because the old neighborhoods are real quaint. And there's kind of a nostalgia about moving back into some of these neighborhoods around parks and schools and whatnot. And I've noticed, some of the old homes built in the 50s, 60s, and 70s are being knocked down. Somebody's building a new home on that lot. That's what you got to do with public education. You can't nip around the edges. You can't take the house and gut it and fix it. You got to knock the house down and build a new one. And we've got reasons to believe there are ways to improve, but the business of appeasement will not allow us to get there. And I'm not angry with teachers. I'm not angry with administrators. I'm not angry with people who want to build schools. Just don't tell me the nonsense that it's going to make education better. And either we're in the business of making education better or we're in the business of new buildings, smaller classes, and paying teachers more. And if we're in the business of smaller classes, newer buildings, and paying teachers more, then let's just say that. Let's just honestly say there is no correlation to any of this and bettering education. but these are things we need to do because these people need to be appeased.